I understand what you say about living the course instead of preaching it. But I seem to have this problem that I think the course is so fantastic, so it's very difficult not to talk about it. Can you say anything about that?
Yes, I just missed one word you said, because the course is so something. So what?
Fantastic.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic, okay. Well, yeah, of course you should, I'm talking about it. The idea is when you talk about it, don't have an investment in what you're saying, and don't have an investment in the people to whom you are speaking believing what you're saying. Don't have an investment in people agreeing that this is a fantastic book. That's all. It's not that you don't talk about it, but it depends why you're talking about it. You know, if you're talking about it because you want to share something that's personally meaningful to you with someone who is important to you, well, I think it would be withholding not to do that. But to stand on a street corner, you know, hold it up and kind of start preaching because it's a fantastic book, I'd be a little suspicious of that. It depends on what the purpose of your speaking about it would be. Is it to reinforce my ego, or is it to, as I was saying earlier, to establish this community of love? How's that sound? So I do think it's a fantastic book, as I've indicated, but you want to be aware of why you're talking about it, and maybe the people you're talking about it to don't want to hear it, at which point it's not loving. You know, if you're talking to like a Christian, you know, that they might be very threatened by it. You know, so you have to examine what your motives are. Does that help? I remember I've told this story, I think, too, in the past. In the early years, Judy had dragged Helen and Bill out of their spiritual closet, and so we went traveling around, and we were down south, and I remember we met a man. He was a man probably 50s or 60s at the time. He had been around a while, and obviously had suffered at the hands of whatever the Christian churches were he had been involved with. And so he drew up a whole chart, a big thing, in which he compared and contrasted what the Bible said with what the Course says. And he was ready to go riding out on his white horse and kind of present this to the churches. I remember Helen talked him out of it. I forget exactly how she did it, but she talked him out of it. Because his way, his purpose was to say, they're wrong and I'm right. You know, I have the truth in this book and you don't. And that's not a very, very loving way of representing the Course. So it depends on what your purpose is.
I have a question in regards to how to hear the Holy Spirit or guidance. Earlier you said that you really can't get guidance like on, or what I understood maybe that you were saying is that you can't really get specific guidance, that maybe sometimes it's your ego really that you're listening to and you don't know that. And then I think that in the book I don't remember the quote exactly, but it says that you need not do anything and that the Holy Spirit will tell you what to do.
Right.
And then also in addition,
so one place it says God will tell you what to do. You know that? Yeah.
I also have read books or listened to other people who talk about the Course in Miracles, and they talk about how, you know, they've been working with it for years, and they've been able to get to a point where they actually get specific guidance on doing things in their lives.
Yeah. If you give me their names, we'll shoot them.
So then what does the book mean when it says that God will give you specific guidance, or or the Holy Spirit will tell you what to do?
All right. The same book also tells you, it says, very few can hear God's voice directly. In the passage I read to you, makes that same point. Remember again that the Course is written in the condition in which we think we are, which is duality, which is where we think that we are a separate person, God's a separate person, Jesus is a separate person, the Holy Spirit is a separate person. All right? And it says in one place, that's the same place where it says this will come to you in the condition in which you think you are, that there is no Trinity. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. It says God is first and there's no second or third. You know, that's all part of the illusion. At the end of the clarification of terms, back of the manual. In the section on the Holy Spirit, it says the Holy Spirit's an illusion. And the end, he'll disappear. All right. Now, early in the text, it says that the Holy Spirit will remain after separation is healed to bless your creations. Those are contradictory statements. Right. In the Song of Prayer pamphlet, which was written specifically to address this issue, on page 2, it says, it presents two contradictory statements. One is that the Holy Spirit will answer all your questions and meet all your needs. And then it says there's only one problem and one solution. And then Jesus' response to that is to say, in prayer, this is not contradictory, which means, in this context, prayer means process of forgiveness. All right? And the process of forgiveness actually is likened to a ladder, which the next section in that pamphlet talks about. As at the very bottom of the ladder, where we think we are individuals, we think of the Holy Spirit as an individual, and we think that He speaks to us. Speaks to us through license plates, through being covering your eyes and opening the book and sticking your finger somewhere and getting a message. You'll see a number all of a sudden, and you quickly run to the workbook with that number and think this is the Holy Spirit's message for you, and on and on. And the Holy Spirit speaks to you specifically. Right. At the bottom of the ladder, that's our experience. Right. It's not that it's invalid. It's just that our explanation is not right. Because as we make our way up, we realize it's our voice. In fact, there are 3 places in the workbook. Two of them are in your assigned readings that says the Holy Spirit's voice is yours. Right. And you realize that you don't hear specific things. The Course says that in spots, and there's that one place in the workbook that says, ask God, tell me, Father, what I should do. Yeah. But God doesn't even know about you. It says later in the workbook, God doesn't hear your prayers, and God doesn't understand words, because words were made to keep Him separate from us. So you have to be very careful not to take statements out of context in the Course, and then have them be what the Course is saying. You have to really, some statements are made to meet us on the lower rungs of the ladder, and some to meet us in the middle, even on top. That's what's incredible about the Course, I think, as a spiritual document. There's something in it for everyone, no matter where they are on their spiritual journey. But when you take something out of context, all of a sudden you think that's what the Course is saying, when it goes against the whole teaching.
But is it because ultimately we are the Holy Spirit?
Yes.
We are Jesus.
When you get near the top of the ladder, you realize there's no separate voice. We are that voice. No, it's not the ego voice.
So sometimes I think of it as communing with your higher self, which is the Holy Spirit. So that way I can, in my mind, understand better that it's really me talking, but it is,
but it's not you as the person you think you are.
Me.
I mean, so you don't want to skip steps. I always tell people, as long as you wake up in the morning and look in the mirror and see an image that you think is you, then in no way do you believe the body's an illusion, because you still identify with that body, and you don't want to skip steps. So it can be, and I'm certainly not telling people not to ask Jesus or the Holy Spirit for help or to receive guidance for anything you want to do. I'm just saying that's the beginning of the journey. And that's why the pamphlet was written. As many of you know, that pamphlet was originally written a year after the Course was published. And it came as a result of conversations that Helen and I had, which I was really talking about this whole thing of asking for specific help, and it was a trap. And people thinking they're hearing all kinds of things and acting on them. And so Helen began writing down what we used to call special messages, like a personal message, that was explaining that's how that gets you off track very quickly. Right. And then that original message then got kind of extended and expanded into the whole pamphlet. But it was originally meant to help people recognize that asking specifics is not the way to go. It's very clear. Just read page 2 of that pamphlet. That is such a trap. And so one of the things I always used to say to people, instead of wondering why I don't hear the Holy Spirit's voice, ask instead for help of the Holy Spirit. What can I do so I can hear your voice? And you know what his answer is? To forgive. All right, and one of the best examples of that came in an experience Helen had. When she asked Jesus one day, and Helen used to hear very clearly, but she was very often wrong when it came to specifics. She was right on in terms of this course because it's non-specific. When it came to specifics, she'd be dead wrong. Because once you get into specifics, your ego is there. So one day she asked Jesus for help, said, what can I say to this person who's in trouble? All right, now, one would think that's a perfectly legitimate, spiritual thing to do, perfectly compatible with the Course. All right? Jesus' answer to her, which she wrote down, was, don't ask me what you should say to this brother. Ask me instead for help to look through the eyes of peace and not judgment. In other words, don't ask me what to say. Ask me to help you get your ego out of the way. And then he said, all the help of heaven would come to your side. And he said, then you would automatically know what to say. But when you ask specifics, part of the trap, and it's arrogance, it doesn't look like arrogance, is you're telling Jesus or the Holy Spirit, you're framing the answer, saying, I want an answer to this question. Which means you're telling him, number one, that you know what the problem is, and you're making it impossible to hear his answer. Instead, you'll hear your answer that you now projected out there, and you think, oh, this is the Holy Spirit. He told me I should wait on this street corner. And I'll get a taxi cab. That was a favorite one of Helen and Bill's. And there was a big distinction made between being psychic and being spiritual. To be psychic, yeah, you know where to stand on a street corner, to get a taxi cab. Or where to go shopping to get the specific coat you want. Helen was great at that. Spiritual is when you ask for help to get my ego out of the way. And then I don't care what street corner I stand on. I'll just know, without thinking, what street corner to stand on so I get a taxi cab. Even if it's raining out in Manhattan in the rush hour. Right?
I committed the sin of...
Oh, no, I don't want to hear it. What did you do?
There's
Jenny, write her name down.
There's a version of text that was released into the ether before it was published.
Oh, the air text.
Yeah. And there's something there that I think it says where Jesus is telling her, why didn't you ask me for advice? And I think it has to do something with she's outside and she's getting in a cab or something like that. Right?
Yeah. She was big on cabs.
Yeah.
Getting cabs, yeah.
And so that's what you're talking about, where she's asking for specific...
Yes. There's a lot of that. And it was all, that was a mistake. It feels so good when you think you're getting a message. Helen liked to shop. And I would be with her very, very often. We went on many shopping expeditions. I could tell you every shoe store on Fifth Avenue, between Fifth Avenue and Broadway. And she would hear very specific things. And very often would be right. Once I went with her to a department store and she needed a dress and she was told, quote unquote, what rec to go to. And she said, but that's not my size. And she said, well, go there anyway. And she went there and sure enough, there was a dress in her size. She was psychic. The spiritual part comes out when you set your ego aside. Hey, you're not concerned about shopping. And she took down this course. That's the difference. She's what's purpose is. Now, for Helen, shopping was a major defense against Jesus. And what was very helpful and instructive to see in all the years I was with her is how she never once felt he was judging her. I mean, Helen knew what this was. I knew what this was. Helen knew that I knew what this was. Obviously, Jesus knew what it was. But she still went shopping. And her experience was that he went with her. But that's not A Course in Miracles. I mean, A Course in Miracles is letting go of your ego, and as I was saying earlier, and establishing the community of love so that everyone is part of the shared interest and shared purpose. When you get into specific, it is such a distraction. And then you believe I get messages from the Holy Spirit. I'm driving on the highway, and there's a license plate with the word love in it. Oh, I'm supposed to love. No, I'm not saying that you can't benefit from that as a reminder, but to think that Jesus does that, I mean, that's saying this incredible presence of love and boils it down to a license plate. It's like having this gigantic ocean, and you dip a thimble in it. You say, oh, that's the ocean. And that's what asking for specifics is. I won't take the time now, but if you read the two opening pages of the Song of Prayer pamphlet, it's all there. And it's a specific warning, not to ask God for trifling advice about a problem that will last only an instant. And he says, ask for the experience of God's love, and when you have, which you get by letting go of guilt. When you have that experience, all the little answers are found there, which means you'll know what to say to someone who's in trouble. And you'll know what to say to, or act in any situation. You know, it says right at the beginning of the text in the introduction, this course is not about the meaning of love because that cannot be taught. It's about removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence. It says right in the text, your task is not to seek the truth, but to seek and find all the barriers you place between yourself and truth. So that's why this is not a course about love. It's about undoing the ego. It's about recognizing the ego. When you ask for specifics, once again, you have to recognize the arrogance inherent in that. That's expressed, by the way, in the rules for decision at the beginning of chapter 30. It talks about that. You're setting it up. You're telling Jesus that my happiness depends on my going to a certain rack and finding the dress I want. Not that there's anything wrong in doing that, but that's salvation. I mean, you would want that experience instead of feeling His love, which would embrace everyone. That's the problem. And the ego jumps right in. That's why I can't say often enough. Watch out for specifics. That's you know, again, that's why there's practically nothing specific in this course. You know, it doesn't tell you how to live in the world. It tells you how to live in the mind. And when your mind is healed, then the love just comes through, and you say and do whatever is loving and kind to all people. That's what makes it very, very simple. And remember again, when the Course talks about prayer in this pamphlet, when Jesus talks about prayer is a process. And the metaphor he uses is a ladder. Top of the ladder is the real world, and then the ladder disappears, and you're home with God. The bottom of the ladder is our experience as bodies living in the world. So prayer is a process. Right? So here's, again, bottom of page 1, chapter 1, section 1, paragraph 2. You've been told to ask the Holy Spirit for the answer to any specific problem, and that you will receive a specific answer if such is your need. So that's what your friend did. Right? And if you go to the personal material that was taken out of the dictation for Jesus had advised Helen, that's now around, you could get really off track very quickly, which is why that material was taken out. You have also been told that there's only one problem and one answer. In prayer, this is not contradictory. Remember, on the top of the ladder, or the middle parts of the ladder, all the way up, there's only one problem, which is the belief in separation, and one solution, which is the belief in the atonement. Lessons 79 and 80 make that very clear. At the bottom of the ladder, we have many problems, and the Holy Spirit, our experience will be He'll answer all our specific questions and meet all our needs. There are decisions to make here, and they must be made whether they be illusions or not. You cannot be asked to accept answers which are beyond the level of need that you can recognize. So if your level of need is that I'm a body living in this world and I have a lot of needs, and I need help with that. So your experience of Jesus or the Holy Spirit will come in the form that will meet your need, because your mind takes their love and translates it to something specific. Therefore, it is not the form of the question that matters, which is what we think when we ask a specific question. You know, tell me what I should do today. You know, Jesus, tell me what stock should I invest in? What street corner should I stand on in Manhattan to get a taxi cab? What job should I take? Where should I live? You know, what dress should I get? You know, it doesn't matter. Form doesn't matter. The form of the answer, if given by God, will suit your need as you see it. This is merely an echo of the reply of His voice. The real sound is always a song of thanksgiving and of love. That's the forgotten song. So what you are specifically hearing is an echo. It's a translation of your separated mind of the abstract thought of love into something you can relate to, because you're at the bottom of the ladder. And so you need something that will meet your needs as a person, as a body. Then you experience Jesus or the Holy Spirit as a person or a body that will talk to you. and you think that's the answer. And then you rush to tell all your Course in Miracle people what Jesus just told me I should do. Right? You cannot then ask for the echo. Don't ask for, it's really not the specific answer to your specific question. So that's what Jesus was telling Helen. Don't ask me for the echo of what you should say to this person. Ask me instead to help you remove the static. So you will feel my love, and then you'll know what to say. And then what you say will come from that song of thanksgiving and love. It's not a sin to ask for specifics, but it's a delaying tactic. Especially if you're so sure that the voice for God is speaking to you. Speaking to you. That just fills you up with all that spiritual specialness. And you take this course, which will take you home, and you're willing to settle for a little hot tent in the middle of the desert. That's what we do. It is the song that is the gift. That's that experience of God's love. Along with the song come the overtones, the harmonics, the echoes. But these are secondary. Remember the one I quoted you earlier, the notes of the song are nothing. So the overtones, the harmonics, the echoes are the specific. They're secondary. It's the song you want. And what enables you to experience that love, that's the song? Letting go of guilt. Asking Jesus to help you remember why you're in this relationship, why you're in this job, why you're getting out of bed in the morning. It's to use any and all of these experiences, no matter how separating they seem to be and how different they seem to be, to bring you to the same experience of love. That's what you want, not the specific. Bodies love specifics. That's why, again, run as fast as you can from any course student who talks about specifics. I have specific work to do. I got a specific message. They haven't read this pamphlet. Again, this pamphlet was written down by Helen a year after the course was published to correct people's mistakes. As many of you know, it has 3 chapters: prayer, forgiveness, and healing. The structure of each chapter is the same. First presenting the ego's version, and then the correction. So how does the forgiveness chapter end? With Jesus saying, don't set forgiveness in an earthly frame. Don't make it between one body and another body. That's not what forgiveness is. Forgiveness is going to your right mind where I am. That's what he's saying. That's forgiveness. Letting go of your investment in the ego. Letting go of your resistance. Otherwise, you get caught. And you become enamored of the specific. Heaven is not specific. God is not specific. Truth is not specific. The ego is specific. That's how the separation started. The ego demanded that God acknowledge the specificity of his Son. Well, there's no specificity of God's Son. God's Son is perfectly one, at one with him. So we're not only creatures of specialness, we're creatures of specificity. All right. In true prayer, which means when you're near the top of the ladder, you hear only the song. All the rest is merely added. All the specifics just kind of come. You have sought first the kingdom of heaven, and all else has been given you, has indeed been given you. All right, now here's the crucial paragraph, paragraph 4. The secret of true prayer is to forget the things you think you need. I need a new coat. I need a new job. I need a new bank account. I need a new relationship. I need a new body. I need a new body part. I need. Right? Forget the things you think you need. To ask for the specific. Ask Jesus or the Holy Spirit for the specific is much the same as to look on sin and then forgive it, which in chapter 2 is called forgiveness to destroy. You make the error real, then you forgive it. Yes, you've done a terrible thing, but in the goodness of my heart, I deign to forgive you.